In this video, I'm going to show you how to correctly set up your gradebook so that you can take grades in your classes. First thing you need to do is go to the menu, click on Gradebook, and then click on Grade Sheet. This is going to bring up either a grade sheet or it's going to bring up the class list with all of your classes. Make sure to click on your first period class or the first class you teach during the day. Then you're going to click on Settings. From here, we are going to set up our grade sheet. Under Grade Sheet Display, you do not need to click all of these boxes. What's going to happen if you do that is in your grade sheet, I'm going to click back over. Every time you click one of those boxes, it adds a column in your gradebook. It will automatically add that column during the time period for that grading period. So now we make sure that we come down to our assignment display. If you like your assignment to be displayed like it was in GradeSpeed, make sure to click on Ascending so that it is oldest to newest. If you want to be able to see if a student was absent on the day that the assignment was assigned, make sure to click the Assignment Attendance or Display Assignment Attendance Indicator. The district has already set up all of our colors for our categories. We don't get a choice. So if you don't want to see those colors, you click the box. If you want to see the colors, then you leave the box alone. Next, we go down to Grade Column Display. Make sure that you click on Use this display for all grade columns. Scroll down and change this to %. I do not recommend clicking on the Display Student Grading Period Comment Indicator. You can leave that off unless you want parents to see your comments. Then the next thing you're going to have are some other columns that you can add to your gradebook. It is up to you which columns you want to have. You can have their grade level if you teach multiple grade levels. You can have their student number. If you want to see if they are missing an assignment, this will give you the number of missing assignments for that student. It will give you this unscored past due assignments will tell you if an assignment is past due and that it's not scored. And then this is an attendance indicator for that particular day. These are all optional columns. You do not have to have them. So you click on the ones that you want. I don't recommend clicking on Display Gradebook Averages. That does it kind of makes your gradebook look a little cluttered. So it's up to you. You can try it if you like it, click it. If not, leave it off. Make sure to click Save Changes. We must click Save Changes in between each category that we're looking at. Now, one of the things about these options on the left side is that you have to do these for each class period except for grade calculation. I believe they are working to change that, but as of right now, you do have to do it for each class period. So you're going to do Student Display. This is how you want your students to show up in your gradebook. So you can display all students, which will show your students that have withdrawn from your class or transferred to another class, students enrolled as of today, or manual date entry. I would use students enrolled as of today. If you have students that have the same first and last name, you may want to use last, first, middle. If not, then just last and first. Any change you make will bring up the Save button. So if I was to change this, there's my save, but I'm going to leave this as last and first. Then I'm going to go to Score Setting. This is where you are setting the max score for any assignment. 100 is usually what we put in there. then you can, if a student does make higher than 100, if you were to give extra credit, it does allow for extra credit to be given in other, what happens is that extra points gets added to another assignment to bring that assignment up. You can decide how many extra points they are allowed to have in each 6 weeks grading period. So you would just check the box and you would enter the amount of the points that they're allowed to get, the max amount that they're allowed to get. If that's going to be however much you'd like it to be, I mean, if you don't have a preference, then you just leave it blank. Grade scale, we cannot change grade scale. That is set by the district, so we can just skip that one and go to grade calculation. Here is where we have to make sure to do this in the proper steps. The first thing we're going to do is set up our categories. So we are in PR1, and we are going to click on the chevron, and it's going to open up our grade categories. Now from here, we can set up our categories the way we need them. So I am going to uncheck grades because we are going to set up our own categories. And we are going to go through and find the categories that we want. My first category is going to be daily. So if I come down here, we don't actually have a daily, but we have grades daily. So I'm going to check that. And the percentages for this one is 20%. Then I have projects. I'm going to come down to projects. And projects, these are 40%. And then last is participation. I'll come back up to participation and put 40%. Notice that each time it changed the category weight. We need to make sure that that is always at 100%, 100% is where it needs to be. We click Save Changes. Now this might take a moment for it to save all of the changes, but once it does that, notice that we have these drop-down arrows here. So I am going to close my chevron. If you do not see the chevron right here, please go up here and you'll minimize this. And when you do that, it brings the chevron up and you can see it. Now you can open it up to see everything. And so now I'm going to put this back at 100% so we can see. So what you want to do so that all of the percentages that you just created copies over to all of your 6 weeks, you're going to click on this drop down arrow and you're going to say copy grade calculation setup. You're going to click that. That is going to copy over to, or it's creating the copy for you. And now I'm going to click this select button, which selects everything. But right here, SE1, that is your semester exam 1. You need to uncheck that box. Click Run Process. Now that is going to take all of the categories that we just created, and it is going to move them to each of our 6 weeks. And now we're going to click Close. So now, after we close that, we can look and see that all of our 6 weeks have a little drop-down arrow that is showing that we have copied our categories over. And if we want to check that, you can come down and you can, look at any of the 6 weeks. And once we do this, it's going to go over here. So now we can see we have grades daily, 20%, participation, 40, and our projects, 40. So we can see that we have copied our grade calculations over. So I'm going to go back to my gradebook settings. Sorry, sometimes Skyward does take a moment or two. And if we want to see our entire semester settings, we can click right here. That is going to take us to another page that's going to show us each of our 6 weeks. So 6 weeks 1 is 28.57, 6 weeks 2, 28.57, 6 weeks 3, and then our semester exam. And that we cannot change, but it does allow us to see that. We're going to go back to our gradebook settings, and that is how we set up our gradebooks. Please remember that at this time, even though I go to look at one of my other classes, my display settings, my grade sheet display settings, student display settings, and score settings are not going to copy over when I do this, okay? So now I'm going to click on Copy Gradebook Settings to Other Classes. And I'm going to click Next. And again, it does take a moment. You can see the little blue bar thing up at the top moving across the screen. Now see, in the future, they should have here where you can copy the other, the grade sheet, the student display, and the score settings should all be able to be copied, but right now it just has copy grade calculations. So in the future, you'll be able to click that and those settings will go over. At least that's my understanding. So now we're going to click on Next. It is going to bring up this next window. You're going to sync to all of your classes if you teach the same class all day long. If you teach different levels, then you only want to sync the class that you want that to go to. So then I'm going to click Next. And this process does take a moment, so I'm going to pause the video while this runs. All right, so now that that process is done, we need to go in and take off, excuse me, right here where it has the, sorry about that. You want to uncheck this SE1 on each of your class periods. So you will need to scroll down to each one and uncheck it, because that is your exam weight. You don't want those to go into your other classes. Okay, now we're going to go up here and hit Next. That is going to run. It's going to tell you everything that it's changing and what it's updating. Click on Run Process. Again, this might take a moment, so I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so now the process is complete. We close this, and if we look at our other grade sheets for our other classes, we will see that our grade calculations have been copied over and that our categories have been copied over. So I'm going to change this to second period. And it is working. So now if I look, I can go down here to grade calculations. And when I go to grade calculations, I can see that each one of these has the little down arrow, meaning that I could copy them down. If I click on the chevrons, I can see that my categories have copied over. Oh, I have to click on an actual category, I'm sorry. So if I go over here to period 1, progress report 1, now my categories have copied over, and that is how you set up your gradebook. If you have any questions, please let me know.